The people of Colwood never spoke about mine shaft number 9. Visitors were told it had collapsed in the winter of 1962, trapping 18 miners beneath thousands of tons of rock. The official report blamed unstable shale and methane pockets. The entrance was sealed with reinforced concrete, covered with brick, and eventually hidden behind decades of weeds and rusting chain-link fence. The town accepted the explanation. No one accepted what came afterward. Because the sounds never stopped. The first report seemed harmless. A faint metallic clank. Another. Then silence. Residents assumed abandoned pipes were expanding in the cold. But the sounds never came from the walls. They came from the plumbing. Every copper pipe in town acted like a hollow telephone line. Late at night, people pressed their ears against kitchen sinks and heard distant pickaxes striking stone. Not echoes. Fresh strikes. Measured. Rhythmic. As if miners were still working beneath the earth. Old-timers developed strange habits. They never left water dripping overnight. Never repaired ancient copper lines. Never knocked on exposed pipes. And if someone heard scratching beneath the bathroom sink after midnight, they left the house until sunrise. No exceptions. When asked why, they answered the same way. They hear you answer. In October 2021, civil engineer Daniel Mercer arrived from Charleston. Colwood had begun sinking. Entire streets leaned several inches lower every year. Porches tilted. Telephone poles bent. Brick foundations cracked in impossible patterns. Daniel's company won the contract to determine why. Ground-penetrating radar found nothing unusual. No massive cavity. No flooding. No unstable bedrock. Yet every survey returned the same impossible conclusion. The entire town was descending. Not collapsing. Descending. As though something beneath it was slowly pulling it downward. Daniel rented an old company house built in 1948. The plumbing was original. Copper. His first night was uneventful. The second night, around 2:13 a.m., he woke to soft tapping. Clank. 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 Perfectly spaced. The sound traveled through the bathroom pipes. He recorded it on his phone. The tapping continued for nearly 12 minutes. When he replayed the recording the next morning, there was no tapping. Only voices. Hundreds of voices whispering over one another. Too quiet to understand. Until the very end. One sentence emerged clearly. Come lower. Daniel assumed the audio file had become corrupted. Until the town librarian heard it. She turned pale. Then quietly asked. Did they say your name? Daniel hadn't told her. The final whisper wasn't just, come lower. It had been. Daniel, come lower. She locked every window before telling him the truth. The same thing had happened to dozens of families. The voices always learned names they should never know. And once they began speaking, the house started sinking faster. Daniel laughed. Until he measured the basement floor. The previous inspection listed the ceiling height at 7 feet. His laser measure read 6 feet, 11 inches. 1 inch had disappeared. Over 3 days. He inspected neighboring homes. Every basement showed the same thing. Tiny losses. Millimeters. Inches. Enough that homeowners blamed warped flooring. None realized the floors themselves hadn't risen. The entire structures had moved downward. That evening Daniel cut open a section of basement wall to inspect the plumbing. The copper pipe looked ancient. Dark. Almost black. He scraped away corrosion. It wasn't corrosion. It was coal. The metal itself had begun transforming into glossy black carbon. Impossible. Copper doesn't become coal. His samples disappeared from the laboratory overnight. The security footage never showed anyone entering. Only the storage cabinet. At exactly 2:13 a.m. it opened by itself. Every sample slid out. Across the floor. Toward the drain. The county approved drilling to inspect beneath the town. Workers chose the abandoned park near the old shaft. At 60 feet. Normal earth. At 90 feet. Coal. At 120 feet. The drill suddenly stopped. Not because it struck rock. Because something beneath grabbed it. Hydraulic pressure spiked. The drilling rig lurched downward. Steel cables screamed. Operators shut everything off. The drill continued sinking anyway. Pulled silently into darkness. When they finally extracted the equipment, the bottom 20 feet were gone. The broken end wasn't jagged. It looked chewed. That night every house in Colwood heard the clanking. Louder than ever. Not random anymore. Organized. Dozens of tools striking together. Like hundreds of miners beginning a shift. Then came the scratching. Inside the walls. Inside the pipes. Inside the floors. Always below people's feet. Always moving upward. Daniel entered the oldest section of town with thermal cameras. Every basement showed identical temperatures. 48 degrees. Except one. The abandoned Cooper residence. Its basement measured 92 degrees. Body temperature. The stairs groaned beneath him. The air smelled like wet stone and burning charcoal. At the bottom stood an ancient water heater connected to thick copper pipes. Every pipe vibrated. Not from flowing water. From voices. Thousands. Whispering simultaneously. He leaned closer. The whispers stopped. Then every voice inhaled together. One voice emerged. "We finally reached you." The concrete floor shifted beneath him. Hairline cracks raced across the basement. Black dust poured upward. Not downward. Upward. As though gravity beneath the floor had reversed. The foundation split open. Daniel expected dirt. Instead he saw a tunnel. Perfectly smooth. Descending at a gentle angle. Its walls weren't carved. They looked polished. Rounded. Like something impossibly large had slowly pressed its way through solid rock. The tunnel disappeared into absolute darkness. Then lights appeared below. Helmet lamps. 1. 10. 50. Hundreds. They moved upward. Figures emerged. Miners. Still wearing helmets from another era. Faces hidden beneath layers of glossy black stone. Not coal dust. Stone. Their skin had fossilized into carbon-dark plates, cracked like burned wood. Between the cracks, faint orange light pulsed as though embers glowed beneath the surface. Each carried a pickaxe. None made a sound. Until they reached the basement. Together they whispered. Shift change. Daniel ran. The entire house shook. Outside, every porch light in Colwood flickered 3 times. Residents looked out their windows. Across town, every basement door slowly swung open. On their own. Emergency crews arrived before dawn. No injuries. No fires. Nothing unusual. Except every surveyed house sat exactly 3 inches lower than the previous week. Officials blamed unstable ground. Again. Daniel resigned the next day. Before leaving town, he visited the sealed entrance to mine shaft number 9. The bricks looked untouched. Fresh flowers rested against the wall. Someone had placed a handwritten note beside them. It read, "We're almost through. Colwood still exists. Its streets continue sinking by fractions of an inch each year. Most engineers blame abandoned mine voids. The residents don't. Many have replaced every copper pipe in their homes. It doesn't matter. The whispering always returns. Because it was never traveling through the metal. The pipes were only teaching people where to listen. And if you ever wake in Colwood to the steady sound of pickaxes echoing through your plumbing, do not put your ear against the pipe. The voices are no longer trying to escape. They're checking to see whether your house has sunk low enough to join the next shift.